Okay, so you guys sent in, well, a whole transcript of a past life regression session. And,
Yeah, this one's with Calogero Grifasi,
right.
with a guy named Louis.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just like, I dreamt I was Cleopatra kind of stuff. This session goes into some pretty wild claims about past lives and entities messing with us and agreements that might even go across lifetimes.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into all of that and see if we can pull out any insights, anything that might help you think about things in a new way.
So buckle up because we're about to get into some pretty out there stuff, but we're just sticking to what's in the session itself, all right? The story that it tells.
Yeah. So the session, it starts with like a super fast hypnotic induction.
Yeah.
And almost right away, Louis is like, boom, I'm Ramses.
Okay.
He mentions this pressure in his head,
Hmm.
and the images he gets are pretty vivid.
He describes Ramses as having a deformed head, and he sees himself near a port. It's interesting, he's working with these objects like a staff and a little statue, and he's calling them symbolic. He's wearing a short skirt, and there are people serving him.
It's really interesting right off the bat how much detail he's getting.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going, and he sees a frieze, like an ancient carving. And then he's at this, like, huge construction project, a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you think about what the subconscious can cook up.
For sure. And this pyramid, it's almost done, but he doesn't know what city he's in. He thinks they've been working on it for like 50 years and there's still 20 more to go.
Wow.
And his role, he says it feels like he's like pointing and directing, using something curved, almost like a conductor's baton, but for a pyramid.
Oh, wow.
So later on, they nailed down a date for this Ramses lifetime, 1302. And during that part, he talks about seeing other pyramids that have square archways and columns. And he says they belong to a temple. So it sounds like these pyramids weren't just popping up randomly. They were part of something bigger.
Yeah.
But then things get a little weird, right?
Uh-huh.
Louis starts to feel this
Interference.
disruption, this interference. And then all of a sudden there's this entity who calls itself Asia.
This is where things get a little spooky for you.
Yeah.
What is this interference?
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to Asia, it doesn't want Louis to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually afraid of Louis' strength. And then Asia says that it controls Louis with light, and that it lives inside his head.
Oh, okay. That's pretty out there.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And it gets even more strange because this connection is described as something that's past. There's danger mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then Asia even starts talking about experiments
Mm-hmm.
about Louis' genetics and some force.
So we've got this idea of an outside influence, right? Something trying to control what's going on. Mm-hmm.
And the stuff about genetic experiments and this mysterious force,
Mm-hmm.
it's not exactly mainstream, but it's adding another layer to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder how people see the things that influence their lives,
For sure.
And the regression keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Louis goes back to that same year, 1302.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But this time he's at home, he's laying down, and he has this really disturbing feeling.
Yeah.
It feels like there are worms inside his abdomen.
Ugh.
Yeah, not the most pleasant image.
No, not at all.
And he describes these worms in a really specific way. He says they look like a neighbor's screw,
Mm-hmm.
which, is a very strange, specific comparison. And while he's feeling this, he's also like invoking or praying to a queen.
A queen,
Yeah.
but not a regular queen, right?
No, this queen is, well, she's described as insect-like, like a bee in some ways, but with a human face.
Okay.
She's got a head like a mantis, a stylized body, and a crown. Pretty bizarre, right?
Definitely not your typical queen.
Yeah. And there's more. There are about 200 gray beings just watching this all go down. Almost like some kind of ritual.
Yeah, it's like some otherworldly meeting. It makes you think about what all these images could mean,
Yeah.
So this queen, she eventually gets a name, Clara.
Okay.
And what she's doing is pretty unsettling. She's putting eggs into Louis's body, 400 of them, her own eggs, and she's using his energy to do it.
This is where it gets really weird, like super strange.
Yeah.
These eggs, they turn into things like hairs inside his abdomen, and then they become black, hairy, spider-like creatures.
Spider creatures, okay.
And they leave his body by going up through the roof.
Through the roof.
Through the roof.
Oh, it's pretty wild, right?
Wild is an understatement.
And these spiders, they're not just a one-time thing.
Oh.
According to the session, they stay with him his whole life, up until his death.
Okay.
And they hang out in his head. It's a pretty disturbing image, like these creatures that just won't let go. What do you think about that?
It's a really unsettling concept.
Yeah. Makes you think about like unseen influences and all that. And the fact that these things are stuck with him, like in his head for his entire life is just, I don't know, it's just very strange.
It's definitely not your typical regression
Yeah,
story.
not at all. So then, still in this 1302 lifetime, when Louis dies, his essence goes back into his body and then travels inside the pyramid he was connected to. And it ends up just like hanging out in the air outside the pyramid. And get this, he's in this light that's connecting the pyramid to the sky.
So you've got this connection between like the earth, the sky, and this light.
Yeah.
It almost makes you think that pyramids might have been built for more than just tombs. And while he's in this state, he says he's getting answers to questions without even having to think about them.
And some of the answers he gets are really specific and pretty bizarre. Like, he's told that Hermes, the god, was for you. And then there's this phrase, catachesius, which I don't even know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Hongo capensis, which is some kind of fungus that creates laughing images. And apparently it's located somewhere blue to the southeast, controlled by beings with really long heads.
Interesting.
And these long heads, they're described as hybrids. Apparently they're the result of genetic experiments that were done on Louis in the past. And they have 50% of his DNA.
Yeah.
Physically, they have black, thin legs and these tiny hands, like atrophied hands.
Okay.
But they're also supposedly smarter and more sensitive than humans, and they can, like, hold and share information.
Sounds familiar.
Right. That goes back to the whole genetic experiments thing.
Definitely.
So back when Ramses was building the pyramid, he mentions that there were 33 of these long-headed beings there with him.
Okay.
And they were helping out with energy.
Helping out.
Yeah. And it's described as being like a cup of light.
So they're providing energy, maybe making things easier for Ramses.
Yeah.
And the long heads are associated with refrigeration, too. And they have this heightened intelligence and sensitivity. One of them, H, he says, yep, we were working on the pyramids. He was getting information. And he says they come from somewhere else. And that's why they have those long heads. It just adds to this whole idea of something beyond human being involved, right?
Yeah, it keeps getting stranger and stranger.
So then the session focuses on another entity that's with Louis, a mantis-like being.
Okay.
They ask it to leave Louis's body.
Yeah.
It's literally a mantis with a mantis face.
Okay.
And apparently there was another entity there earlier too.
Oh.
But this mantis, get this, it remembers seeing the interviewer in Italy.
Whoa.
Like it recognizes the guy. It's kind of creepy, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit unnerving.
Yeah.
Okay, so this mantis is connected to Louis in his head, stomach, and genitals. And when Louis focuses on his head, he feels this wave and something foreign, something that's attached to the center. And in his stomach, there's a spike.
Okay.
But he also feels like he's wearing armor on his legs and arms, and he says it's heavy and it makes it hard to move.
Armor.
Yeah. And the mantis is the one controlling this armor.
So you've got this mantis that's not just present, it's like physically affecting him.
Yeah.
And that armor, it sounds like it's limiting him somehow.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that they start connecting the mantis to some of Louis's actual health problems.
Yeah.
He's got digestive problems. And the mantis is feeding on some kind of cultivated energy inside Louis. Makes you think about how energy and physical health might be connected.
Definitely.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's not just digestive issues. They link a bunch of different physical things to the mantis and these like implants.
Oh, wow.
Right shoulder contracture, heaviness on his shoulders, sinusitis, pain in his right eye, rhinitis, and lots of mucus.
Wow.
Lower back heaviness,
Okay.
leg spasms, nervousness, lack of
it-
concentration, insecurity, sadness, fears, anxieties about food, even fused fingers at birth. They're connecting all of that to this mantis.
It's like this mantis has its hands in every part of his life.
You know, even if you don't buy into the whole entity thing, it's pretty amazing how much detail is coming out.
For sure. So they try to figure out where this mantis connection came from.
Okay.
Louis goes back to another past life, this time somewhere between 150 and 7150 BC.
Wow.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's a guy named Enns on a place called, get this, Nens and Colon, which is a fiery moon.
Okay.
And he's doing this sacrifice ritual to get knowledge. And during the ritual, which is happening on a marble stone, a cone-shaped vortex comes into him and gives him more power and knowledge.
Okay.
And this is supposed to be the first time he encountered the Mantis.
So that's the origin story.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what other lifetimes might be hidden away in our subconscious.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
So in this life, Louis also has a vision of the future, where he sees himself building and rebuilding pyramids with the Mantis.
Okay, so that ties back to Ramses, right?
Right. And he says the pyramids are a connection to the Maya, which he describes as the beyond.
And he also says it's like a common meter or ship.
So the pyramids are like a bridge to somewhere else and maybe even a vehicle.
Yeah, potentially. So after Nez dies, he ends up at a pyramid and he sees other beings plus this friendly animal form.
Mm.
And he also has a vision of a spring.
Okay.
Then the session moves back to the present day, and the goal is to disconnect Louis from this Mantis. They ask it to remove all of its experiments, all its attachments.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it's resistant,
Oh.
but then it starts complying, although very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And Louis feels stuff being taken out of him, out of his mouth, stomach, legs, head.
Wow.
He also feels this heaviness leave his feet.
Like a weight being lifted.
Yeah, exactly. And then he has a vision of the future, this time without the Mantis, and it's a good vision.
So things are looking up.
Yeah. And there's also this interesting part where they connect him with an owl spirit guide for knowledge.
Okay.
This was authorized in a past life where Louis was named Diego and was a cart driver. And the owl's purpose, it says, was companionship.
So not every entity is bad.
Right, exactly.
That sounds like the owl's there to help.
Mm-hmm. So as the interviewer starts bringing Louis back, he says he feels light, good, and the pressure in his head is gone. And he
Yeah.
feels stronger, more energetic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it seems like things are getting better for him.
Yeah.
Then they do another regression. And this time, Lee says it feels like his body has no limits. He sees this figure with a triangle on its head,
Okay.
which he says is a symbol of construction.
Hmm.
And this figure is connected to 4 pyramids and 4 names.
Interesting.
The animal associated with this figure is a scorpion.
Scorpion.
And this is supposed to be around 303 BC. Louis's role in this life was as an energy source for construction. But the energy was coming from outside, not from within him.
Okay.
And guess what? There's more interference.
Uh-oh. Not again.
Yeah. This time it's a scorpion king
A scorpion king. Where's this guy hanging out?
in the etheric realm. And this scorpion king is targeting powerful genetic lineages, so it sounds pretty serious. They even mention an agreement, something that involves Louis's descendants.
Okay.
And Louis's DNA is different somehow. And it's giving the Scorpion King all power over us, especially when it comes to, like, certain themes in life.
So this isn't just about Louis.
No.
It's affecting his whole family line.
Mm-hmm. So the interviewer asks about the Scorpion King's children, and there are 200 of them.
200 kids.
Apparently.
Wow. Okay. What's the deal with them?
Well, the message from the Scorpion King is like a genetic covenant for powerful offspring.
Mm-hmm.
But no one knows his actual name.
It's all very mysterious.
Yeah.
Like, who is this guy?
Mm-hmm. And Louis says it feels like a fantasy world created by thoughts.
So are these agreements real?
Mm-hmm.
Or just, like, ideas?
It makes you think.
Yeah.
Then Louis has this vision of himself in the desert with 4 pyramids, even though we only know of 3 in Egypt.
4 pyramids.
Yeah, he says the 4th one is in Iraq.
Okay.
And then there's this void in Iraq, or maybe some caves, which is a portal leading off-planet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Off planet. Like to another world.
It's serving these others.
Others.
Yeah, that's what it says. And then he mentions creators, but says he needs to connect more to get info on them.
It's like there are all these levels of beings and powers at play here.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even though it sounds like a bad situation with the Scorpion King, Louis actually seems okay with the agreement.
Huh.
Like, content.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Why would that be?
He's happy about the power and the offspring.
Offspring. But he said they weren't from his body, right?
Yeah. It's hybridization, but with his permission, not like direct involvement.
Okay, that makes sense.
He also says there are no physical problems for him because of the agreement, and the offspring are organic beings with conscious essences.
Conscious essences. Like, they're not just clones, they have souls.
Yeah, that's the implication.
Okay. And this agreement was all about having children, but in a non-physical way.
Interesting.
Like being a guide. And he sees a vision of the agreement. 5 beings above the pyramids.
Okay.
And Louis agreed to this whole exchange between different planes with multiple bodies. But he says he didn't know he could refuse.
So he felt like he was trapped.
Yeah.
The interviewer then tries to show Louis what his life would have been like without this agreement, just to see if maybe he would prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
But something blocks the projection.
Really?
Yeah. And Louis says he just wants to keep going with the session, that he's tired.
Okay.
Sounds like he doesn't even want to consider another option. It's like, maybe this agreement is more comfortable than the unknown.
Yeah, maybe.
Then the mantis we talked about earlier, it comes back into the picture.
Okay.
But this time, it's like a pet.
A pet.
Yeah. Louis actually wants to keep it.
He wants to keep it, even though it's causing him problems.
Right.
What problems?
Mental confusion, migraines, stuff like that.
Well,
Stuff with his brain. But Louis is really wishy-washy about it.
Okay.
Like, he's not sure what he wants. The interviewer, he picks up on an energy of indifference, almost like Louis has just given up. And then, boom, Louis disconnects from that part of the regression, from the mantis.
So he's conflicted.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that plays out.
Yeah.
So after that, they have Louis focus on managing his own energy.
Okay.
And the interviewer, he tries to disconnect Louis from all these different influences.
So he's basically trying to clean house,
Yeah.
make a fresh start.
Then they check in with Louis, see how he's doing. And he says he's okay physically, but he had some heaviness and mood swings at first. He figures a 65 minutes have passed.
Okay.
And physically, his long head, well, it's not extended anymore.
So whatever connection there was, it seems like it's gone. Then the interviewer, he tries to connect with Louis energetically, and he describes him as special, like a desert at dusk or dawn with a red sky.
Right.
And Louis looks like a pillar with light coming from outside of him.
Okay.
And then they trace that light source back to something called Alcor origin of light.
Interesting.
And they also disconnect him from las ganas, which in Spanish it means like desires or urges.
Okay.
After all that, Louis says he's trembling and his head hurts.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But the interviewer works on that energetically, and Louis starts to feel his body getting stronger again.
Very good.
Yeah.
So they move on to the debrief, right? And Louis, he actually pinpoints a bunch of areas that he wants to work on in the future. His stomach, his back, the front of his head, he says, that's connected to insecurity. He says he feels blocked with language. He's got tension in his shoulders and neck, problems with his sinuses, rhinitis, too much mucus, can't concentrate, he's scared, and he's afraid of rejection.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But he's aware of it, so
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Then they rewind back to a past regression in Montevideo.
Okay.
This one had a really heavy vibe, apparently. And during that regression, they saw this black hooded entity right near the hypnotist. It came in through the AC and then connected to Louis.
No way.
And they identified it as an insect or mantis species. It was hiding its face and it was making these high-pitched sounds.
Creepy.
Totally creepy. So this mantis, they call him GM, he starts talking. He claims Louis as his servant.
Okay.
And he tries to stop the interviewer from being there. And he says he's part of a plan, along with other mantises and the Scorpion King.
Okay.
They're all on this ship watching and challenging different generations of people.
Whoa. Okay, so there's a whole team of these things working together.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Not good at all. And then, during a session with someone named Aurora, they see this same mantis, Drurum, but this time without the hood, and he's near Aurora's head, like influencing her.
And Aurora, she sees these 4 pyramids, a black background, and she feels like an astronaut.
Okay.
And she hears this distant voice, not the hypnotist's. And they figure it's the mantis talking to her telepathically.
Oh, wow.
But the mantis is saying mean stuff to her, putting her down, making her mad. And Aurora actually feels it physically.
Yeah.
Like her stomach is in knots, her head hurts, her neck and temples hurt.
So this mantis is messing with her big time.
Yeah. Even when the interviewer tries to be positive, the mantis won't let go.
Okay.
But then, get this, when the interviewer touches Aurora, the mantis backs off.
Really?
Yeah, like the interviewer's energy is repelling it. They're not compatible, you know.
Yeah.
And when Aurora comes back, she's mad at the interviewer. She feels used.
Wow.
So that's not good.
No.
Then the mantis, he goes back to the ship, and he's not feeling too good. The positive energy in the room, it burned his energy field.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So positivity is like their kryptonite.
It seems that way.
Okay.
And his legs are burned. The other mantises, they help him out.
Yeah.
But the Scorpion King, he's pissed.
Understandably.
Yeah. And he's cooking up a plan to target the weaker people in the group.
Okay.
He's going after Hila because she's scared, and Anxo because he's sad.
Hmm.
And their plan is to, like, sneak into their energy fields as something nice through their dreams using high frequencies.
So they're trying to trick them.
Exactly.
Dinky.
And they're specifically going after Louis and Lila at night in the hotel.
Okay.
10 mantises, they're checking out the hotel, and they're messing with other guests who have low frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't get into most of the group's rooms.
Ah, why not?
Their energy fields are too strong, like suns, it says.
Okay.
But they can get into Louis's room. They're watching him, feeding off his emotions, giving him nightmares.
About his parents.
Yeah. But the mantises are causing those nightmares, it says. And they target Lila, too. The mantis is filling her head with negative thoughts.
That's awful.
Yeah. And there are these other beings, reptilian, like crocodiles.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to implant people
Right.
along with the mantises.
Mm.
But something stops them.
What stops them?
It says other beings are interfering.
Hmm.
So there's a fight going on some level.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But with Louis, they keep his implant, and they put another one on his chest.
And that's affecting him how?
Well, it's messing with his sensitivity, his emotions, making him more afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It could even cause a heart attack.
Whoa.
Then, the Scorpion King, he confronts the interviewer telepathically,
Yeah.
tells him to shut up.
Wow.
But the interviewer's like, no, you need to leave. His frequencies are too much for the Scorpion King.
Mm-hmm.
So the interviewer's got some power. Then, on the last day of this course they're all doing, there are 3 mantises and the Scorpion King outside.
Okay.
But while the group's out riding horses, their frequencies go up. Aurora and Erasma, they're not angry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And these white lights from nature, they come into them.
Okay.
And when they get back, black vortexes leave their chests. Then they all get together to do energy work with Louis.
Mm-hmm.
The negative beings are there at first, but the group's combined energy, it's too much for them. They're overwhelmed.
Wow.
So there's power in numbers.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Then they regress Louis again
Yeah.
to another lifetime in Egypt as Hace.
Okay.
He's in a temple made of black marble, and there are pyramids, some already built, one under construction.
Okay.
Haas is in charge. She's got a good position. He directs construction, controls the food, and even gets slaves. And there's this initiation ritual. He meets the scorpion, but this time the scorpion is in human form.
Okay.
And Haas, he offers up children, including his own son.
He offers his own son. Why
Mhm.
would he do that?
He's doing it for power, to be able to travel astrally through space to get smarter.
Oh.
There's this huge ship above them, and all these people materialize from it.
Okay.
And the scorpion, he takes the kids' souls, puts them in this bubble on another planet.
So they're trapped.
Yeah, they're trapped as children on this other world.
That's awful.
And Haas, he's totally under the scorpion's influence. He's the one who built the 4th pyramid.
Okay.
But later,